Hello, welcome aboard to this episode of the We Are Reading One Piece podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to following the entire story of One Piece from beginning to end as we focus on each volume. We keep the discussion spoiler-free for new fans of the series, so this is the perfect place to follow along, whether you're new to the series or just want to revisit the world of One Piece with us. This week, we will be covering the first part of Volume 60, My Little Brother, which covers chapters 585 through 589. My name is Joel, and I'll be your host. Joining me today, we have Evan.
Hello there.
And we have Cody.
I sneezed, but I touched the mute button in time, so we are good.
Nailed it.
Low the weather, so I might not be as animated as usual, which still will be far too much for this podcast.
It's still more animated than I am. Even at my most animated, so you make up for it.
Something like that.
Yeah, so we are getting into more Luffy backstory. So we're getting more fleshed out one than we did originally. But we're also getting a little background for Ace as well, which is very fitting for what we experienced with the last volume. So in case you need a little refresher for where we left off, Shanks arrived at Marineford, declaring that he was here to end the war. He and Sengoku agreed to put a stop to the fighting, officially ending the war. Hancock met up with the Lost Submarine and allowed the Heart Pirates to stay on Amazon Lily while Luffy recovered. He woke up 2 weeks later and began to process the death of his brother, while Jinbei stood by his side. Luffy began to reflect on his time growing up with Ace. He was left by Garp with the bandit Curly the Don to raise Luffy in addition to Gold Roger's kid. He was left a few years ago. Luffy was eager to befriend Ace, but the feeling was not mutual. Luffy would follow Ace for months, unable to keep up and figure out where the boy was going. One day, Luffy found where Ace had been going. Ace had been collecting treasure with his friend Sabo in hopes that they would be able to become pirates and leave this island one day. They weren't happy when they discovered Luffy found out, but they were even less happy when Luffy was caught by the pirate Porchemi of the Blue Jam Pirates. Porchemi brutally beat Luffy to get him to spill where Ace and Sabo's treasure was hidden, but he wouldn't talk. When Ace and Sabo learned Luffy didn't give them up, they stormed Porchemi's hideout and rescued Luffy. This strengthened their bond. Worried they would have targets on them for what they did, they figured it was safer for the three of them to stay at the Dons. While the boys were out causing havoc, news got out that the Celestial Dragons will be coming to visit their island. Okay, yeah, so the Celestial Dragons are going to be visiting this little island. And we know that they're not typically good news.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of that.
Mm-mm.
All right. So for now, let's get things started with the first chapter of the volume. Chapter 585, Brotherly Pact. Luffy, Ace, and Sabo spar with each other to get stronger. Luffy hasn't been able to beat either of the older boys once. Beyond the mountain of trash, Great Terminal, lies the city and its walls. Here, the aristocrats and the royal family live. They dump out their trash and unwanted things, forming the waste of Great Terminal. While the boys were in town, dining and dashing, a man recognizes Sabo, calling out to him. Sabo ignores him and says to his friends he doesn't know him. Luffy and Ace get Sabo to tell what he has been hiding. He is the son of an aristocrat, and that man was his father. Sabo ran away because he hated the life of an aristocrat. His parents did not care about him, and only cared about furthering their status and wealth at Sabo's expense. He tells them he just wants to be free. The three boys share their dreams. They pour 3 cups of sake, then declare that as of today, they are brothers. They continue having adventures until one day, Blue Jam catches Sabo. He was hired by Sabo's father to retrieve the boy. He orders for the other 2 boys to be killed, but Sabo pleads to let them go if he comes along willingly. Sabo leaves his brothers, unable to hold back his tears.
That explains the top hat.
Yep.
His outfit makes perfect sense now.
He's one of the brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we briefly met Sabo in the last volume, but we didn't really know his true connection to the boys.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where they do make the pact, and this is where they officially declare that they consider each other brothers. So their bond has been strengthened. So now we know a bit more of the Sabo character that Ace had mentioned when he was giving his last words to Luffy.
Yeah, he fits right into this this motley crew.
Mm-hmm.
Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
I really
I
like
think-
Sabo. He's like just enough hooligan, just like they are, but there's also just a bit of I don't want to say necessarily refinedness, not to tie to the aristocrat, but there's like this nice compassion about him that I really like.
Mm,
He just seems like a good kid.
yeah. What do you guys like think of his his background and like the reasons why he left?
I think it's right in
I
line.
mean,
Oh, Evan, you go. I know I started.
no,
but
I
want
think
you to go. I want you to go.
I don't even think we're saying
Right.
the same thing. It's just like having seen the flashbacks from his childhood, it's no surprise that he wanted to flee these aristocrats who are like pretty awful people from the things that they're saying, and seem to have driven him away. I think that checks out.
Literally the scene where his mom, the flashback where his mom goes to the other kid from a higher placed family who had been bullying Sabo and comforts the other kid. That one just broke me.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel for him. I also think it's just nice that that philosophically this is like it's everything that Luffy and Ace stand for and everything that they value, but Luffy and Ace are just, I guess, I'm not gonna say soft spoken, but it's just something that it's an action they have and something they've been through, and Sabo just exemplifies everything else that they're about.
Yeah.
Yeah. They fit together so well.
Yeah, and there's
Agreed.
kind of like this element of like found family here
Mhm.
where Sabo has a family, but he doesn't feel like he fits in or belongs with the family. Like he's not like them, and the things that they're trying to make him do are things that he doesn't want to do, and he doesn't feel like they truly care about him. Whereas Ace and Luffy, he feels that bond and that kinship. He feels like these are people that I want to be with, and people that I can truly call my family, and what they stand for is what I stand for. So it's just it's sad that Sabo has a situation where he was forced to make this decision and run away because of like what he had to go through with his family. But ultimately, he's doing what he feels is best for him and what will make him actually happy. Uh, but when it comes to his father, like tracking him down and trying to get him back. I mean, yeah, he is his kid, but he's not like, oh, Sabo, like I'm like you ran away and like we'll never do that to you again. We'll take better care of you going forward. There's no remorse. There's like it's just like, oh, like Sabo, you're ours. You have to come back to us because we own you, and you have to do what you're told. So it's more of that kind of element.
Yeah, they want to make good on their investment. I
Yes.
Yeah, I really like the fact that Sabo's going through that in a way that it unites him with Luffy and Ace because Sabo abandoned his family because there's difference between them because they don't want him Sabo the person, they want Sabo the potential to rise in the ranks. And so Sabo the person is not wanted, and that also fits in with Ace, who has never been wanted because of his father being Roger, and Luffy, who has that same exact kind of struggle, not the same kind of struggle with Garp, because Garp does seem to come from a place of somewhat genuine care, but that same difference in opinion over what his life is gonna be. And so it's again, it's that same circumstance. They all have something they can understand about each other. So they really that sake cup exchanging, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and previously we actually did have a little snippet of the scene, but the
Mhm.
third
Mhm.
cup was cropped out because we only saw Luffy and Ace's cup.
Yep.
But now we actually see that there was a third cup there the whole time.
Sneaky Oda. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky Oda. But it also kinda makes sense that, like, that Sabo's, like, the sixth ranger of the group, the third brother, like, because like, there is, like, something very similar about their circumstances, but there is something that's just a little bit tweaked to Sabo's version of it.
Yeah.
Luffy and Ace were forced into their circumstances. Sabo made this decision to leave too. They
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
the same through line, but there's a bit of an inversion with Sabo, so I honestly, I feel like there could be room for people to be like, "Whoa, there wasn't a third brother before Oda, blah blah blah." I'm fine with it. I have no problem with it personally. The fact that it was such a late reveal and that this was not maybe not even a bait and switch, but probably something that Oda might not have had planned all along. I feel like there's some people who might take issue with that sort of decision, but personally, I do not.
I didn't take any issue with that. I think that this is like we haven't gotten a ton of flashbacks of Luffy's past,
Mhm.
so it's kind of cool getting these characters here. I feel like this was so much needed backstory.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I agree too.
And in that same thought, it's like it was incredibly bittersweet seeing um, Ace like proclaiming his dreams and goals and knowing his fate and how that ties into where we are now. So yeah, it was kind of a bittersweet chapter. This whole
Yeah.
flashback's been bittersweet, but
Mhm. Other part of his Ace's dream. Well, I hate the fact that part of his dream is, but I love it narratively. Is that part of his dream is that he won't run away from anyone.
mhm.
That one hurts.
But yeah, at the same time, it is important for Ace to be true to himself. And
Oh yeah,
yeah, we'll get more context for his motivations too. But yeah, I do think it is nice to see like there is a consistency to the characters in certain ways too. So
yeah,
there's like it's nice to see like
Absolutely.
certain things do like carry over. They may grow up and mature, but they're like the core parts that make them who they are things that like they're very committed to. I think that's really important to establish who these characters are.
I agree. I think it's something that serves to make his actions in the present stronger and more
Yes.
motivated, and it makes me respect him more. I'm just very sad about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree because it is like establishing the trend
Yeah,
and we can see like how he got to where he was.
Yeah. They're definitely core traits, but I feel like it's cool the way they're shown side by side here because you can really see the parallels, between the present and the past and the present.
Mhm.
So, what do you guys think Luffy actually said here? Do you think he said I wanted to be king of the pirates, or do you think this is actually something different?
I assumed it was King of the Pirates
I think when I
or a
first read
pirate.
it, I assumed King of the Pirates. Now I have no idea.
Because I think if it was king of the pirates, I think Oda would have just said it. Like, I don't think there's any reason for him to hide that information here.
That's a good point.
Mhm.
So I do think there's a potential that he said something different, but we don't know what he said because like by like Ace and Sabo's reactions, like I don't know if I buy that he said king of the pirates because like Ace said I can't believe you actually said that, and Sabo said haha you're funny Luffy. I can't wait to see what you'll be like in the future. So it's like yeah he could have said king of the pirates, but I don't know if that reaction really sells me on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. That sounded very sarcastic. My voice is just very hoarse.
No, no, no sarcasm detected. So
Okay, okay, good. No, but I do think you're right. I think you're correct.
But then Sabo goes on to say, but isn't it really bad that we all want to be captains? So you can assume that what Luffy said. I mean, that's why I assumed it, I feel like.
well, Ace didn't actually specify he wanted to be a captain in his dialogue.
Sure, he just said a great pirate.
I mean, it could be about What Luffy said could have to do with being a captain, even if it's not necessarily king of the pirates. It could also be him reflecting on just the general trend of the conversation and the fact that we're all um so individually oriented that like are any of us gonna really answer to the other one, or are we just gonna end up doing our
Yeah,
own thing? And I think Sal was smart enough to see where that's going.
yeah.
It is an interesting point though. Like now I am very curious. Do you have a theory?
I don't.
Okay.
Just have a theory about what it's not.
Yeah, so I really can't say more than this because we don't really have any information to work off of.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I didn't really dwell on it while I was reading it. Like I just kind of assumed that and moved on. But it is curious that it wasn't mentioned directly.
I think that's what's so good about this and the way he framed it. Like, even just down, like, the way Oda structured the page, that it really was just, like, between the 2 pages of this spread. I think there is something that makes you think it's a natural transition anyway. And so, of course, you don't think about the fact that, "Oh, we just cut
Mm,
away," right?
yeah.
Because, like, when I first read it, I was in the same place as everyone's like, "Oh, he just said King of the Pirates." And, like, pretty much everyone I talked to as well also said that, so I think Oda, that's definitely an intentional, that response is very much Oda's intention, and he wove that into the fabric of this chapter, of this flashback, with there being so everything that's so new, the fact we're paying attention to the retrospective analysis of Ace's character, this new guy Sabo. Luffy is gonna be a bit under the radar in this. So, unless you're like Joel, you might not catch it the first time.
And honestly, because this is not my first time through the series, I think that's the only reason why I'm looking into this deeper. If I was going through this the first time, I wouldn't question what his dream was. I would just assume, oh, King of the Pirates.
Right.
But because I'm going through, you know, multiple times, this is now like making me. There's like a light bulb going off here. I'm like, wait, there's something open ended here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, we don't really have anything else to go off of.
No.
I just wanted to point that out. But to kind of shift gears a little bit, we also do get more geographical information about this place.
Mhm.
So we've heard of the Goa Kingdom, but now we actually kind of get like a map of it. So you can see it's made up of Windmill Village, where we first met Luffy. And then we have Mount Corvo, where the bandits are staying. We have Great Terminal, just the giant trash pile. That we've been kind of seeing like Luffy, Ace, and Sabo messing around. Then we have Edgetown, which is like inside the wall of the city, but it's like the outskirts. And like the further you go in, the more wealthy and the aristocrats you get. So then after Edgetown, we have Central Town, and then we go to Highland, where the palace is. So yeah, in Highland, that's where the rich, wealthy aristocrat people live, and that's where Sabo came from. So yeah, Sabo seems like oh, he's got it made. He came from like this rich family and stuff like that. And now we see like the truth was that he just wasn't happy with that reality. It's like in that situation where money doesn't buy happiness. Which in this case here, that I think that's kind of the message where there's more to it. Because the way of the aristocrats, like we'll see what kind of theme that is throughout the volume, like what kind of people live there and how they treat humanity and what their outlook on things are. Like we'll get more of that throughout the volume. But this is kind of like setting the stage for those kinds of topics and themes that are going to be coming up.
We love a Oda geographical map.
Setting that stage.
Always welcome.
All right. Do you guys have any other thoughts for the chapter before we move on?
No.
I'm good.
Same.
Okay. And then we also have the SBS, where they actually tell us what Sengoku's devil fruit is.
Ooh, true.
Oh yes, I was gonna bring this up because that's new information.
Yeah, so he has the human fruit, model Buddha.
Another mystical beast
zone type.
zone. Yeah.
So yeah, he has the same model fruit. Well, he has the same like type of fruit as Chopper. It's just a different model. But yeah, so it's like it kind of answers like the questions like what happens like if a human eats the human fruit. And like to some degree, I think if like you ate the regular human fruit, it wouldn't actually have any effect on you. But in this case here, eating like a different type of human fruit, we see that there's like a Buddha model. Like Oda seems like to be like he's kind of justifying his explanation, but I think it completely works for me. Like I'm not really like questioning it, but he seems like he's like he almost feels like he's jumping through hoops a little bit. But I think with what he's established, this makes the most sense on how to categorize it.
Yeah.
I'd say so. So it's just it's a window into how Oda creates things. It's like, I really just want to draw this cool thing. Okay, now how do I make this work?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, got it. I love it. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Very, very crafty and clever.
Mhm.
So that does confirm he is a Buddha. Because I know, like, when it came up, like, there was a little confusion, like, oh, like, what's he depicting? He's a Buddha.
Yeah.
He's a Buddha statue. All right, but let's keep things moving with chapter 586, City of Stench. Blue Jam tells Luffy and Ace that Sabo is better off and is probably happier now. He puts the two boys to work to start placing crates around Great Terminal as payback for the incident with Port Jemmy. In the city of Highland, Sabo and his father meet with law enforcement. When Sabo refused to lie that he was innocent of the crimes he committed with Luffy and Ace, his father bribes the officer to overlook them. While Sabo was away, his parents adopted a son named Stelly. Stelly tells Sabo he's lucky he came back when he did, because there's a plan for Great Terminal to be burned tomorrow. In order to gain favor with the visiting celestial dragons, they want to get rid of the trash mountain and everyone living there. Sabo runs out and confirms that people are making preparations for the operation, with Blue Jam cooperating with them. The next day, Sabo is shocked that everyone knows about it and is okay with it happening. Sabo runs away and tries to find Ace and Luffy to warn them. At Great Terminal, Blue Jam tells Ace and Luffy that they will be burning Great Terminal, them included. Before he does, he tells Ace and Luffy to reveal where the treasure is hidden. While the people in Great Terminal run for their lives, the citizens of Edgetown are evacuated to Central Town. Blue Jam approaches the city walls to be let in so they can honor their agreement to make him a noble for burning the trash. But he discovers he was tricked, as he has refused entry. Sabo arrives at the gate to try to get out to help Luffy and Ace, but is stopped by the guards. A hooded figure finds Sabo on the ground, crying that this is happening because of the royal family and the aristocrats. He says the town stinks worse than the trash because of the rotten people who live here. The words have an impact on the man, who happens to be Monkey D. Dragon. He tells Sabo he understands and was born in this country, though he still doesn't have the power to change it. Ivankov arrives and tells Dragon that preparations are complete. Pretty heavy.
Mhm.
Yep.
Where do you guys want to start in this one?
Things are heating up.
Yeah.
Hey. It's a little fucked up, but okay. I appreciate the pun. Hey. That joke kind of turned into a garbage fire. Oh!
Man, our jokes stink.
Ah!
I just had to get one in there.
Perfect. I think just like piggyback off what we were saying about Sabo last chapter, I think here we just get to see more evidence of his character as he's brought back to the aristocratic society and kind of doubles down on his decision to abandon that life, because he very easily could have, accepted his fate and just kind of gone back to the way his life was before. But he's not having any of it. Understandably, these people are quite awful, and he sticks to his morals and goes back to help Ace and Luffy as soon as he gets his info. So yeah, definitely a very likable character in Sabo.
For sure.
I felt so bad for him when he was running through the town and realizing everyone's just completely okay with this plan.
Yeah.
Just the innocence leave his soul. I felt so bad for him. You know, I don't feel bad
Pretty
for
horrific.
Stelly.
Yeah.
Fucking hate that kid.
While Sabo's a likable character, we have Stelly, who is a not likable character.
What a little shit.
I have worked with so many kids, and I've told the both of you, like, as a teacher, like some of the crazy horror stories I've had.
Mm-hmm.
But no kids are worse than like the super rich kids. I have kids like talking about poor people the way Stelly talks about the Trash and Go Kingdom. Like, I need to leave. I cannot be here right now. And so it's just it's still just insane to me that there are people like this, but it starts somewhere, and it's when you're surrounded by that drive for upward mobility, it's going to affect you to a certain degree. And Stelly is the evidence of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like you're essentially like these kids are brainwashed, and
Yeah.
then that's all they know. So that's how you like propagate this, is like it just keep things going, you keep the wheel going, because like you instill this into the kids, and then like they grow up and they instill it to their kids, unless like they get broken out of the cycle somehow. Like Sabo fortunately got broken out of the cycle, but like not everybody comes to those terms.
Well, the interesting thing with Sabo is that Sabo had an emotional reason to leave because he was marginalized because he was not seen as useful. So he saw firsthand the fact that if someone is not useful to the system, to this game, then they're cast aside. And of course, Sabo has every
Right.
reason to leave. Stelly, on the other hand, is praised. Stelly is seen as valuable. Stelly is promised these things. And so that means that the hooks just sink deeper and deeper into Stelly. And it just gets so hard to pull the other direction as soon as that validation is given.
Yeah.
It's Insidious and Oda has captured it so well here.
For
Mhm.
sure. Yeah, and Stelly was adopted from a noble family. They say he's very smart, but he has some special circumstances, and his parents gave up on raising him. I don't know what those circumstances are, but there's
True.
something that must have happened. But they kind of saw this as an opportunity, like, oh, we're missing our kid that was supposed to like be brought up into the system, so we'll just take this other kid who is more obedient than Sabo, who will cooperate. So we'll take him. So Stelly was already raised in the noble like machine here,
Mhm.
and he's still like part of it. But like it's just like, oh yeah, we'll just pluck this kid and we'll just put him in Sabo's place, and now we're all good. Now we have Sabo back though. Sabo's back to he's playing A, but if things don't work out, we have Stelly playing B, so we're covered either way.
Mhm.
People should not be parents.
No,
You
they
can probably
should
say that
not
about a lot of
reproduce.
people.
Before we even get into the inbreeding. Sheesh.
But yeah, so in this case here, even like the adults, like the people who are old enough to like know how things work, they have no problem with this. So a lot of them are just kind of going along with it. They're not protesting. Nobody's like speaking up. Nobody's outraged. Everybody's just like, yeah, this is happening, so it's okay. That's fine. We're not supposed to talk about it. Like it's we'll talk about nice things, but we're just gonna pretend it's not happening. But nobody actually cares about stopping it except for Sabo. But yeah, their solution to making things more presentable for the celestial dragons is to just burn away their problems and like their trash, and then any people who they don't want around because they're not seen as having any value. So they're like, hey, let's just we'll just burn it up and not have to deal with it. We'll have some lowly pirate that we'll trick into doing this. We'll have him do the dirty work. We don't get our hands dirty. Our hands have to stay clean, but we'll have this dirty pirate do the work for us, and then he can just be taken out with the rest of the trash. So it's pretty horrific the way that like everybody is just kind of going along with this and what their solution is for their circumstances.
Pretty horrifying,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but also not an entirely new theme to One Piece on a whole.
Right.
This kind of like high society's ignorance of anything outside of their bubble.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is tied back to specifically, the celestial dragons and the world government. Like these are the types of
Right.
people who are benefiting from the system that has been established in this world. So like the world government seems to be like rewarding these types of people, and they don't seem to have a problem with like the way that things are being handled.
The way they handle this, the way they handle O'Hara, it seems to be a more frequent tool of theirs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything they don't like, just wipe it off the map.
Right? Like it was never there in the first place.
But it's pretty fortunate that Dragon is here.
True.
Yeah.
Big true.
Yeah, one thing I
Excited for
was
some Dragon.
trying to tie into the summary a little bit more was throughout the chapter is the wind has been blowing.
Yeah.
I couldn't really find a good way to like incorporate it into the summary, but I do wanted to mention it here is that it is something that's been kind of happening throughout. Like people
Mhm.
mention like, oh, the wind's picking up, and it's like, oh, we have to make sure the fire doesn't like drift over to us. So, but like it's been pretty much it's Dragon that's been causing these winds to to pick up a little bit, I believe, based on these circumstances. I think it was Dragon that was causing that.
Certainly sounds like the case. We don't have the
Yeah.
confirmation yet, but like there's definitely a connection of some kind, whether he's the cause or whether it's just a thematic tie there. There's something going.
Because it's very similar to what happened in Logtown.
Yep.
When Dragon showed up.
Very interesting.
Very curious.
And what do you guys think of this interaction with Dragon and Sabo?
Poor kid.
Yeah.
Just a poor kid.
And we see Dragon like sympathizing with him instead of everyone else in town who's not sympathizing with him, who's ousting him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And ignoring him. Like Dragon actually listens to him here.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like Sabo's go around desperately trying to be like what's wrong with all you people? Like we're gonna like start this fire and like burn the people out there. Like what's wrong with you? We can't do that. And like everybody's like, no, that's fine. They just pretend it's not happening. But like Dragon shows up and listens to Sabo's pleas, and like Sabo like has like a breakdown where he's like, yeah, this town stinks worse than the trash mountain. It's filled with the stink of rotten people. If I stay here, I'll never be free. I'm ashamed I was born an aristocrat. And then Dragon's kind of like a little shocked to see this. Like you've caused this boy to despise his own kind, go a kingdom. So like Sabo really does have an effect on him. And we know Dragon's deal to some degree where he's a freedom fighter. So I think this is something that like really speaks to him in particular. And this is the kind of thing that like this injustice that Dragon wants to fight against.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he's like running into Sabo and like hearing these words, like I think it's a lot of like motivation for him for like his cause. Yeah, he even says, it's like Sabo says, what I said matters to you. The Dragon says, of course it does. I'll never forget it. Yeah, so I think I just think this is like a great interaction here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the very end, we do see like it's not explicitly stated to be Ivankov yet, but we do see like the foot.
Yeah.
And then preparations are ready. Wahoo! So
Yeah.
Wahoo!
Definitely caught that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get that confirmation very soon.
We love.
All right, but you guys get to move on.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to chapter 587. I will never run away. While Blue Jam looks on in horror as the ship burns, the only escape he has away from the fire, the king complains that the fire is making the night sky too bright. The other aristocrats carry on with their lives, feeling the people in Great Terminal deserve what is happening to them. With no means of escape, Blue Jam returns to Luffy and Ace to get payback, make another attempt at getting his hands on the treasure. Ace tells him where the treasure is, but Blue Jam still doesn't let them go. He says he wanted to use the treasure to make a comeback and get revenge on the aristocrats. Ace gets mad and says Sabo isn't like that, but Blue Jam insists that he's one of them. Luffy bites the arm of his captor to try to get free, but the pirate attacks him. Worried for Luffy, Ace shouts not to hurt him, accidentally activating Haki of the Supreme King, knocking out all the pirates except Blue Jam. Before Blue Jam can shoot Ace, the Don shows up with her bandits and attacks him. She tells him all to run, but Ace won't back down. The Don stays with Ace while the others retreat with Luffy. The people of Great Terminal despair that they have no way out. Suddenly, there's a blast clearing a path to a ship. Dragon tells the people that he will change the world one day. He says for those that want to fight for freedom to get on the ship. The next day, after the fire had settled, Luffy cries that he wants to see Ace, but he and Dadan did not return. Back at his house, Sabo thinks he can't live here any longer. He decides to take a boat and set sail. Unfortunately, the Celestial Dragons will soon arrive. The ceremony is about to begin.
But it's going to be fine because billionaires are kind, benevolent people who love free travel. It's all good in the hood.
So we're kind of getting more of like the shoe kind of dropped now because we've been like waiting for the shoe to drop. Now the shoe has dropped.
Yep.
So like this chaos has now been set in motion, and we're kind of seeing how things are playing out as a result of like this incident with the fire at Great Terminal, and how again going back to what we're talking about, how the aristocrats have been reacting to it. We see it's like very deliberate, and like we even see like them Like the way they like. There's like an example of like somebody talking to one of their kids, and so like the kids like asking father, "Why are the people at Trash Mountain not human? Why are they being burned?" And then the father says, "They're getting their just desserts, child. Think about it. It's their fault for not being born aristocrats." And the girl's like, "You're right. They should have just been born aristocrats. They're so stupid."
Which, like, seems so absurd. And in a sense, the presentation is absurd, but it's God. It's just really disheartening how much closer that is to real life
Yes.
than it seems.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I often find myself like thinking like, how can other people think a certain way, or how can they not understand certain things that seem so obvious to me? But at the end of the day, it's like there's just all different kinds of people, and there are going to be people who think differently. And no matter what you say or do, sometimes there's nothing you can do to convince people or change their mind or get them to like break their way of thinking. But in the context of the story, we do see that there are people like this, and it's it's pretty like heartbreaking to see like a kid being raised this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are morals being formed, you know,
Yeah,
or a lack of morals being formed. Really,
Yeah.
it's a crazy world. And there's a great line in this chapter where Dragon mentions that like the future of the world, that that this city is like the future of the world in miniature, which is kind of like what we've been saying this whole time leading up to this point. And I think that's a great observation, and it kind of is a cool way of putting it, because it's like in Goa, we have, you know, like all the parts that Oda laid out in that little diagram. It's like you have all these clear cut levels of society, or like parts of society, and they're all cordoned off in their own distinct sections that all butt up against each other, and there's a complete disconnection between every single level of society. um or not level's the wrong word, but just like different um
Every segment.
every like part of society that they have represented here. um and there's a complete lack of uh like empathy or communication or acknowledgement, and like it just seems like each group is completely ignorant of each other, and it just leads to them not being treated like humans. In and it is kind of, like I said before, kind of a theme that we're getting with throughout One Piece, and kind of like Dragon says, this kind of like sums it all up in like one little like microcosm, or like one little ecosystem that kind of represents that whole thing.
And it's a really good point you make, the fact that this division between the classes of people is literally baked into the geography.
yeah.
Yeah,
And if,
and it's cool.
Oh, no,
Okay,
you pick up from
I
this,
cut
man.
you off.
No, yeah, you did, but you had something to say.
I was just gonna say that it's so perfect that Dragon, the revolutionary of all people, is saying this and having this kind of perspective on things.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
please continue.
No, that's honestly, I'm gonna hold the rest of the thought. I think there'll be a better time for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think we see here that there is that clear division, and it feels systematic and intentional. And we see the response from from Highland and the royal family who's supposed to be ruling this kingdom. Their response wasn't like, well, how do we fix this problem? How do we help these people? The response has been, let's just get rid of these people and not have to deal with them. Whereas, like, we've seen other examples where I feel like, Cobra from Alabasta is somebody who was a ruler and a king, but he was more sympathetic and he actually cared about the people. So, like, when the Civil War was happening, it had like a effect. It was hurting him, and he felt for his people. He was concerned for his people.
Mhm.
So we're seeing there's a definite like disparity in how some of these kingdoms are, being run. and they're able to kind of rule how they see fit. But in this case here, we have the system where we don't have that benevolent ruler, and unfortunately that makes the people suffer. So like the further down you go from Highland, like the more things get worse and worse and worse until you get to the point where they like have people that they don't even consider to be people to try to justify their actions. Like, oh yeah, they're not even like worth considering as humans, so that's fine. So it makes it easy to see why somebody like Dragon would want to take action, because he's seen firsthand, like this is where he comes from. This he mentioned the last chapter, like this is where he was born. So this is the like what he grew up being exposed to. So we don't know really Dragon's history beyond this, but it does kind of give us like an insight as to what Dragon would have witnessed to drive him to want to make a change in the world and to start this revolutionary army.
I will say that while we don't know much about Dragon, this chapter and the last chapter and the end of last chapter, which I did not really mention, made me want to know more about him.
Yeah.
I think that I was always curious about him since Lockdown. That was the goal. But I think this arc made Dragon one of the characters I'm the most curious about in this entire series. Even honestly, even more than Shanks.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was definitely gonna say Shanks. I need more Shanks.
Oh, I need more Shanks, but I'm like, I need to know. I need the Dragon lore.
Yeah, for real.
I need the exact tipping point for it. I need to know like every single bit of information, every single experience that specifically led him down the path of challenging this entire system that has structured the entire world. No, and clearly he's not he's a smart guy. He knows how big a fight that is. I need to see exactly what it took for him to get to that specific point and where he started and what his plan is. I need to know.
Well, another Dragon quote that made me think was immediately after he said what we were just talking about, like this nation being a miniature of our future world. He then says, "A world where unwanted things are discarded can never truly be happy," which I found very interesting coming from Dragon, who left Luffy here. And maybe unwanted isn't the same word that he would use, but he had definitely left his child here and abandoned him in a way, or just abandoned him here. So I thought that was another interesting thing to hear out of Dragon's mouth.
Yeah. So again, not knowing like Dragon's backstory, we don't know Luffy's like circumstances either.
This is true.
So we don't know like if Dragon like knew about Luffy when he was born, or maybe like he made a decision to fight and not wanting to get Luffy involved. He's like, I want to leave my son, but I have to because of this cause. Kind of like how Olvia had to leave Robin behind. She's like, oh, I have this cause I have to do. I'm sorry to leave my kid, but this is like for humanity. So there might be like a calling that they see as like, I have to do this. But like I think there's something about Dragon where he seems to like care about Luffy to some degree, because we saw like with that scene with the Bankov where he would like be staring off to the to the east. And the Bankov would be like, oh, is there something that like you're looking for? Like, so he seemed to be thinking about Luffy. So I think he does care about Luffy. But yeah, we don't know what the circumstances are, and it's like we don't know Luffy's mom. So like what happened to her? Like, did she die like in labor? Was she part of like Dragons like army? Yeah, and did she? Yeah, we don't know. There's so many things unknown, which makes this like really fascinating.
But then
it was just interesting, and like I said, I think unwanted is a harsh word. Like I don't think it's a direct comparison. I think Dragon has been a very likable character and noble character so far, and it could even mean like but putting it through that lens, like not truly happy because this kind of the world that they live in, where like he's living in this extreme, and like sometimes extremes happen and they make you unable to be truly happy. So I think it could still potentially tie in. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what his reasons were, at the end of the day, he did leave Luffy behind.
Right.
So
I think that on a less specific to this note, the Dragon Garp connection also might fit in here to a lesser degree, I guess I should say. Just given that we know nothing about Dragon and Garp's relationship as alleged father and son, and like how, when, if, why, whatever split could have occurred there, but clearly they are very differently aligned right now.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there could be I wonder if that could have any slight bearing on this too, or at the very least, I'm curious about it for a lot of the same reasons we talked about with Luffy.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then there's another figure in the same panel while we're talking about this panel.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Oh, the
Kuma.
big guy? Oh.
Kuma spotting.
Kuma spotting.
Yeah, so it looks like
Yeah, what the
Kuma's
fuck?
here.
What the heck? What the heck? What's he doing here?
I love that. I love that we're getting like the revolutionaries here. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, because we know that Ivankov had called Kuma his friend, but we didn't know their connection.
Mhm.
And like he's just there. It's not even like point out in the text or anything. It's just like you have to notice by looking at the panel. Like,
Yep.
I mean, he's pretty like central to it, but again, it's not like, oh, hey Kuma, like look at this, or he doesn't say anything. Like he doesn't have like dialogue. He's just standing there. But we do see that he's present with Ivankov and Dragon with the revolutionaries.
I still distinctly remember the entire fandom freaking the fuck out when they saw him there. The number of theories, the number of "Whoa, Oda" that happened just at that panel, insane. Myself included, because I was also very invested in Kuma Well.
Yeah. So
I was curious if about Evan's reaction to seeing this here. Aside from that's cool, was there anything else that it brought
I mean,
up for
I
you?
definitely
Anything
was
stand
like,
out
that's
to
pretty
you?
awesome. And Kuma has such a distinctive look that it was obvious right away. But it wasn't like a total surprise, right? Because like we knew about their past together, so I wasn't shocked to see him there.
Yeah,
but I was definitely excited to see him there.
yeah. I guess I should be clear. Not my question you, but in my previous account is that a lot of people had agendas. A lot of people had theories, and it was like, "This is the piece we need. This is the one piece of my theory." So it's always fun seeing those things fall into place for people. Yeah. But anyway, I will stop.
Well, now I'm
asking
thinking
you questions. I'll let that percolate for you.
Yeah, let that stew.
All right, so yeah, but we did talk about the Sabo, the aristocrats, Dragon, the revolutionaries quite a bit. But there's also another good chunk of this chapter too, dedicated to like the Luffy and Ace part of the story.
Very true.
And seeing how they had to deal with the Blue Jam, and we have another situation where Ace is refusing to back down. So yeah, very consistent with the character that we've been seeing. Evan, you had asked a question during Marineford about Ace. Now we do actually have a confirmation of that question that you had asked, where you asked if Ace had the ability to use the Haki of the Supreme King.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And at such a young age, like it was, yeah, that's true. We did glaze over that. Yeah, I was shocked to see Haki, very strong Haki at such a young age. Like that was definitely shocking to me.
Shocking to everybody else around him too.
Yeah, it's so
what
cool.
happened? What'd you do?
Yeah, very cool. I love that Ace has the Haki ability. And not to go off on a tangent, but like I was thinking about Haki and just how incredibly cool of an ability that Haki is. Like it is a superpower that is just like presence. Right? Like I was thinking about that just like before even reading this volume, just like how cool the ability of Haki is. It's just like it's like the embodiment of like confidence essentially, and like presence, or that's like my interpretation of it so far. And
okay,
I think like an ability like that is just conceptually really cool, like such a unique like superpower, if you will, or like special ability. that seems to be derived from like almost like a confidence and like aura. It's just like an aura that people have that they're able to just kind of like overwhelm people with their presence.
Yeah, it's an ability that like people, when they experience it, they know something special happened, and the people
Yeah.
that do know what it is, they acknowledge that it's such a special thing. So
And it's
there's
like
that
certain
level of
people are able to
respect.
withstand it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
because
interesting.
because Blue Jam is actually left standing.
Yep.
But like everybody else gets knocked down, but Blue Jam is the only enemy that's still standing.
It's like willpower. It's like literal willpower.
And so in hockey translated does mean willpower. I'm not sure.
Does
if that's
it?
been mentioned before. Yes.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Wow.
That's yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. So you are
It's
right
all
on the
coming
money.
together. It's all
Yeah.
coming together.
And for me,
Wow, I thought I just had a light bulb moment, and you're like, no, that's like the direct translation.
No, but
That is a light bulb.
your light bulb transcended language. You had that
picked
was
it
a
up.
light bulb moment, and the light was shining. No, you're right
Yeah.
on the money. I love that.
Well, I mean, that's just a testament to Oda's writing. Like,
yes,
like it comes through. Like, how do you write that? Like, how do you? It's impressive. That's really impressive to me.
Yeah.
That he was able to get that message across. Because it's been such a slow burn too. Like, it's just been super slowly introduced, and I think by doing that, it like gives you a full or a better understanding of like how it is, how it works. You're not surprised by it. Like it, no attention was drawn to it in this chapter. It just happened, and it's just like, yeah, I knew that was hockey.
Yeah,
very cool.
It's so well done. I think
Does that mean
just made me realize is that in so many like fantasy stories, shonen particularly, but fantasy in general, when we have all these different powers and these magic systems and all these different, rock, paper, scissors, fire, lightning, ice, grass, fire, water,
Yeah.
triangles, whatever, these rules governing fights, the winner of a fight does not come down to that. It is whoever has the greatest willpower, whoever has the greatest conviction, and Oda has just made that into a power system.
Yeah.
Which is just it's just genius to me.
It is. It's brilliant. Yeah, I was thinking about it like I said, like even before I started this chapter, I was just like struck me. I was like, man, like hockey is exceptionally cool.
Yeah.
Does that make hockey use his Green Lantern?
Kind of. I was thinking that. We love Green Lantern in this house.
There we go.
Nice.
That one's for you. Yeah, for the listeners, Cody has a Green Lantern tattoo on his shoulder.
Yeah. Big fan. Big fan. Jeff Johns Run or Nothing.
Yeah, good run.
Oh, there's others. There's good stuff.
But yeah, I did want to again go back to what Evan was asking back in Marineford. Was Ace had this moment where he said, "Luffy, like you too." So that made you question, "Hey, does Ace also have hockey?" And at the time, I said,
right.
We don't really know. He hasn't really, exhibited it. But we actually do have a case where he was able to use it before. So now with your question, where you said you too, Luffy, it is valid. Like, oh, maybe he was thinking, oh, like me and you, Luffy, we can both do it. Maybe it wasn't like Whitebeard and Luffy, like initially seemed at Marineford. So that gives new context to that moment too.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like this was such a moment too for Ace in this moment. Like he's defending Luffy here, and that's when the hockey ability comes out, and he's able to take all these people down to save Luffy.
Yeah.
I think this is the first instance that we saw.
Yeah, he does like have that motivation because he wants to protect Luffy. So it does feel like that is what kind of like drew it out, and was like that main factor for Ace being able to do this because he had a reason.
And the last time we saw Luffy use it was to save Ace.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's all I have here.
Same.
I'm good.
All right. Cool. All right. Let's move on to the next chapter. Chapter 588, Sabo's Ocean. The townspeople spot Sabo's boat out in the ocean. Dagro uses a pair of binoculars and is surprised to see it's Sabo. As the Celestial Dragon ship approaches, the people call out to him to turn back, but he is not willing to go back at the risk of becoming someone he hates. As Sabo prepares to maneuver out of the large ship's way, the Celestial Dragon, Saint Jabak, takes out a bazooka-type weapon and fires on the little boat. When one of the officers points out there's a boy in the boat, Jabak is not concerned and prepares to fire again as punishment for someone getting in his way and hoisting a pirate flag. Sabo's ship is blown apart and sinks, with Sabo and his dreams along with it. Ace returns to Mount Corvo with Dadan on his back, both having survived Blue Jam and the fire. While Dadan was getting bed rest, she asked Ace why he didn't retreat from Blue Jam. He explained he doesn't back down from a fight and wanted to protect Luffy. This reminded the bandit of the way Garp talked about Gold Roger. Dagoro returns and delivers the tragic news that Sabo was killed. The fact that Sabo was out there was proof that Sabo wasn't happy with living as an aristocrat, as Luffy and Ace suspected. Luffy cries and Ace wants to get revenge on the ones who killed Sabo, but Ace tells Luffy not to cry. Don tells Ace there is nothing he can do about it now and to not risk his life. Before Sabo had set sail, he mailed the letter to Ace. He told him he was setting out to sea to be free. He hoped they were both alright, and he asked Ace to watch over Luffy. Ace breaks down into tears. Let's start with
Well, I know we've said this before, but these Celestial Dragons are like the most despicable characters put to paper. Like I can't think of like any other villain or evil person in any literature or manga that I've read before that's like this despicable and this hateable as like the aristocrats and the Celestial Dragons in One Piece. They're just like pure evil. But they think they're the good guys. Like that's like the worst part too. It's like they think they're entitled to do what they do.
Yeah.
It's all the power in the world with all the immaturity and lack of empathy. It's just insane.
Yeah, that's why with great power there must also come great responsibility. Because otherwise this is what happens.
True.
Sabo man. Sabo man does. But once again, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, this poor kid, literally trying to put out the fire of this small boat he has sailed out to sea to follow his dreams with his own jacket.
Yeah.
And just the most that last blast is just so unceremonious. It's just so brutal. Like
Yep.
the zoom in on his eye as he sees it coming for him, that is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and then we see like the flag and his hat like ripped to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like his like freedom like ended before it even had a chance to begin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a heartbreaking scene. I do have a hot take though. I am not convinced that Sabo is dead.
Really?
Okay.
Yep.
State your case.
It's the classic like hole in the hat. Like we don't see the death, we just see like I don't know.
You think it's a through and through?
I think it's a through and through.
I mean,
I
it
don't
was
know.
a pretty
Also,
minor explosion.
I don't remember
It
exactly.
barely got blown up.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't recall exactly Ace's last words or some of Ace's last words to Luffy, but doesn't he say something like "tell Sabo" something, as if he were alive?
He says, "Tell Dadan."
Nah. Yeah, he's talking about Dadan.
Oh, he's not talking.
He says Sabo would have wanted this. Give your regards to Dadan for me, or something along those lines.
Yeah, something like that.
Evan, let me raise you this.
We are in a flashback, so like death is not off the table.
And what is the one thing
guaranteed,
every
really.
other Straw Hat flashback has had that Luffy's initial flashback with Shanks did not?
Wait, say that again.
What is the thing that every other Straw Hat flashback has had that Luffy's initial, the death of a loved one?
The death of a loved one. Oh no. Too much.
I mean, I will say.
Recently.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I will say
this exact discussion is literally what was going on in Arlong Park High School fan sub. So like, yep.
But yeah, I mean, I will say like the fact that like he gets exploded, I think is like we probably wouldn't see a body in that case because I think it'd be a little rough to see like an exploded kid. But
It'll show him, yeah.
Ah,
Maybe in Berserk, not in One
brutal.
Piece.
I know it was just so brutal and sudden that I didn't think it was. I just was like, no way, no way. I'm just in disbelief.
It's tough. I mean, it's
But
a
yeah.
weird time to be experiencing like a character death in flashback, given the fact that we just had Marineford, right? Given the fact that
Right.
Oda is really saying anything can happen now. I could do the same
Like this
thing. I do
whole
something totally different. You don't know, and I love that.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting death in like Luffy's. This all feels like Luffy's like flashback of
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like that, or that's the way I think it was presented. Was this is all kind of like Luffy unpacking Ace's death. Brutal, freaking brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean that just shows like the Celestial Dragons like there's like a minor inconvenience like oh let's just take the most extreme measure.
Yeah, so extreme.
The smallest upstaging of our authority and significance. You take attention away from them for 1 second. That's still enough. Because like they say, oh, the boat's on their way. He was not in their way at all.
Yeah.
It was not about whether they could get to shore. It's just this kid is fucking up our ceremony.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it was.
Hate them.
Yeah, and we also see like the scene later where like the Celestial Dragons like doing the little parade type thing, and he's walking on the he's like sitting on the slave walking on their hands and knees. So we've seen that's like their preferred method of transportation is to just use slaves to carry them.
God, preferred method. That God, that's so. Never heard put that way, and that it just makes me so mad.
Yeah, I mean that's really what it is.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I hate it. Fuck them, God.
Yeah.
But
The
Ace
good
and
news
John are
is,
okay.
yep, that's the good news.
And then we get the completion of that one partial flashback we got where Ace thought back in his head of saying Luffy, "What, you're gonna kill me off in your head?" And we get the completion of that here.
Yeah, and the conversation with Ace and Dadan about how Ace didn't want to run away because Luffy was behind him. So he has to stay and fight to be able to protect the people he cares about. So if he backs down, then he puts them at risk.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that reminds Dadan about how Garp described Roger. So he's like, oh, Roger was like the same way.
Flashback within a flashback. But yeah, it was cool seeing Garp talk about the similarities between Ace and Roger.
Yeah. So it's not about pride alone. He's making sure that the enemy doesn't go after his friends. So pride is a factor as well. And there are cases where, Ace, I don't know if like maybe Ace wasn't strictly protecting something, but his pride was on the line. But that's also one of the major factors for Ace is to protect somebody. Because one of the other things he was protecting was, in Marineford was, Whitebeard's pride. So he was trying to protect, Whitebeard's pride. And Luffy was also, with him, but I think it was a little bit less about protecting Luffy at that point. It was more about protecting Whitebeard's name.
Right.
By the way, Garp talks about Roger, I think, is positive.
Oh
So
yeah.
It's like there's like a level of respect for
Certainly.
Roger.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely some respect.
He says he couldn't bring himself to hate Roger.
Yeah.
Feels very much like a Luffy and Kobe sort of relationship.
Yeah.
Except they're both Luffy.
And at the end of the chapter, we get that nice moment where Sabo was able to write the letter in advance, at least. So he wrote a letter to Ace and was pretty much saying like, yeah, Luffy is still weak and a crybaby to boot, but he's still a little brother. Take care of him. So like, I have to go off on my own, but at least I know that Luffy has you, so you'll protect him.
So sad. This is such a sad ending to the chapter.
Mm-hmm. There's Ace seeing Sabo's whole journey with his father using him and the conflict And then, you know, what that led to with Sabo, I think that had to have some bearing on Ace's eventual decision to join Whitebeard.
Hmm.
Instead of just striking on his own and saying, "Oh, it's gonna be about me, it's gonna be about everyone knowing that I'm someone to be taken seriously, someone to, you know, to notice, aside from being just Rogers, but also, you know, the fact that he ended up prioritizing family, prioritizing Whitebeard over, I think that seeing that, oh, this is what Sabo didn't get to have. This is something that's truly valuable. I think that had to have some
Yeah.
bearing on him.
Mm.
Then Ace is also carrying Sabo's will out at this point. The way we've seen, you know, all the Straw Hats carry out the wills of their mentors, the way we've seen Luffy carry out Shanks' as well, potentially Roger's will, whatever that is. Ace is carrying out Sabo's will right now.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I think we'll get a little bit more of that in the next chapter too.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So do you want to just move on to the last chapter, unless you guys had any final thoughts?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. So let's wrap things up with chapter 589, Will of the Winds. Mourning the loss of Sabo, Luffy tells Ace he wants to get stronger so he can protect the people he cares about. Ace tells Luffy to stop crying and reassures him that he's not going to die. The two brothers resolve to both become pirates one day and set sail on their own. Elsewhere, the day that the Celestial Dragons arrived at the Goa Kingdom, Dragon and his allies arrive at a small port town, the Dojo, to gather provisions before heading to Baltigo. Over a short period of time, the trash built back up at Grey Terminal. Luffy and Ace continue sparring and training to get stronger. Once Ace reaches age 17, he bids farewell to Mount Corvo, the bandits, and Luffy as he sets out to sea. Luffy continues to get stronger, and when he reached age 17, he set out to sea as well, the goal of becoming the king of the pirates. Back in the present, Luffy weeps, wondering how he could become king of the pirates if he's so weak. Yeah, so just to carry on from the conversation where we end up the last chapter, the timing for when Ace and Luffy chose to leave the island was when Sabo was planning to originally leave, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like in that way, I think that's them like honoring Sabo's legacy and his will, and like they wanted to kind of honor him in that way. So they decided at age 17 is when they would each set out and go on their own adventure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely, because it's such an arbitrary number. Like Sabo chose that because at 18, that's when you were like became an official aristocrat or something like that. I don't remember.
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
exact
yeah,
term.
you're right. Yeah.
But he was like, I want to leave before that, so I'm gonna leave at 17.
Mhm.
And so I definitely think it's clear that they adopted that because it's such a random. It'd be pretty random for the number to just come up with.
Yeah, so before that, they spend that time, training and preparing, and Luffy and Ace are still sparring. But Luffy realizes that he needs to get stronger, so that way he can protect people that he cares about. So if he's gonna be a captain one day, he's gonna be able to pull his own weight. So he wants to use this time to get up his strength.
Speaking of getting stronger, is this a little Zoro?
Yeah.
This little Zoro here
Mm.
that's in the boulder.
Yep. And then Kuina on the panel next to him.
Yep.
Yep. Wow. Haven't seen that guy in a minute.
It's kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So Dragon went to Zoro's dojo.
Very cool. And we get to see Dragon's ship pretty well in this
Yeah.
scene. And it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty
It's pretty
awesome
cool.
ship.
Yeah, like that even has like the dragon tail, so it has like the head and the tail. Or I guess sea dragon or regular
Yeah, that's
dragon,
awesome.
some kind of dragon.
I just love these pirates' commitment to a theme worldwide. Just so good. So good.
I mean, with a name like Dragon, you got to have a dragon ship.
Yeah.
You got to have a dragon ship, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. So good. And he mentions Baltigo. Have we heard Baltigo before? Or is this the first time?
I'm not sure we have.
I don't think.
Let me
I
check
don't
the wiki just to
recall.
be sure.
I wanted to say it came up in Impel Down when
Oh, did it?
we saw the flashback with Ivankov and Dragon. I feel like it's come up before.
Oh no, that might have been where that flashback was. I think you're right.
It's like Revolutionary HQ.
Yeah, I don't know if they really went into too much detail. I'm pretty sure it's been mentioned. I could be mistaken. Yeah, while Cody's looking that up.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I'm not really that.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
can't
and
promise.
we have the moment where Luffy is worried about Ace dying, and then Ace tells him he's not going to die. Remember that. So it's kind of like he makes a promise here that he's not going to die, and that's when he apologizes to Luffy at Marineford when he's like, "Sorry, Luffy, I couldn't like keep my promise." But this is the moment where he had made that promise.
Yep. Yeah. Again, it's just been so bittersweet this entire flashback. Just like the parallels that Oda's drawing with the past and the present and connecting the dots.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a moment. Wasn't there like a moment where like Luffy tried to use the gum pistol and he hit the ground?
Yeah.
And him in the
It was
face.
about halfway through the chapter.
Yeah.
No, it was actually near the like a 2 or
I was
3
thinking the
pages in.
beginning.
Okay.
So cute.
Yeah.
There's some really cute stuff in this chapter.
Yeah. On a whole, it has been cool kind of seeing Luffy coming into his zone as like a skilled fighter, like trying to figure out the gum fruit and figure out how to use his body to fight.
Yeah.
I love the part where Ace and Luffy start their own countries.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, you guys are citizens of the Don's country now. I'm gonna get stronger on my own. And Ace says, I might need to use your bathroom now and then. But I'm a free man. It's so cute. Like they are going through like insanely adult things as far as like just the assault and the murder and the genocide, but like they're still kids. They're still kids.
Yeah.
And they're
Right.
Yeah, and there's such like a little kid, little brother fight type of thing to get into.
It's so fun.
Yeah, and look at the disparity between Ace's hut and his hut. Like Ace's hut is spelt out nice. It's symmetrical, well constructed, and Luffy's is like this hodgepodge mess.
Like falling apart on top of him.
Ace has like the 3 spikes and the 2 swords. Luffy has like just like a dinky little flag.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then we pretty much have them each set sail at 17. They have like optimistic goodbyes, but they each say goodbye in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the end of the flashback, and we come back to the present.
Back to reality.
Yeah, so we have Luffy for the first time that we've ever seen in the series question whether or not he can become the king of the pirates.
Yeah.
It's just at the bottom of this massive string of L's he's taken since Sabaody. And it's all just coming out.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Because like he had to watch like his crew like get sent away like one by one. So he doesn't know if they're okay. So he feels he failed as a captain because like his crew is now like completely spread out, like they're all on their own. And now, Ace's death just like really seems to have like shake him to his core. So it's make him doubt his goals. Like he's wondering if he has what it takes to do this thing that he's been trying to do all this time. So yeah, Luffy's in a pretty rough spot. He's probably hitting like rock bottom, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. And Luffy, who's like always been such a like pure optimist, like always. Like I feel like Luffy always has an optimistic view on anything that comes to him. But like, yeah, he's clearly struggling to find some optimism here.
Yeah. And of course, thinking about Ace's death also makes him think about how weak he was compared to Ace, how weak he was as a kid, how weak he was when Sabo died, how he literally says, I want to get stronger. I don't want to lose anybody. I don't want to be alone. Literally, when he said it last volume, when he first met Sabo, I hate being alone. I hate it more than being hurt. And Luffy has never been this alone. Luffy has never been this weak.
Yeah, that page really hits. Like the way it was illustrated, it really packs a punch.
Yeah, so we're gonna end this this part of the volume on a kind of like a bum note, and we're also gonna end the podcast here as well.
We're too weak, y'all.
All right, so do you guys have any closing thoughts for the volume so far?
I just hope there's an upswing. I hope things get
Yeah,
better.
kind of like I said before, this volume is like I'm very curious to see where Luffy comes out of um, this flashback and uh, the situation he finds himself in, and I feel like we still have yet to see how Luffy emerges from this. So I'm very curious to see um, what the future holds for him
Mhm.
and his psyche.
Yeah, agreed.
Right?
Yeah, I
It's
think
it's tough. It's tough because we got like this heartwarming and emotional and touching like backstory, like something we haven't got a ton of for Luffy, and our first for Ace as well. And kind of getting to see them, their like brotherly love, their competitiveness, their compassion for each other. Um, it doesn't feel good, right? Like it's because like I said, like I've been saying the whole time, it's so bittersweet because it's like we kind of know how this ends, and as touching as it is to get that backstory, it's like in the back of our heads the whole time we know what Luffy's going through. And yeah, I honestly have no idea how Luffy's going to come out of this. Like I'm very interested to see if and how this changes him as a character, like long term.
yeah.
Because like you said, we've never seen him like this before. He's hit an all-time low for the whole series. The good thing about rubber is it bounces back.
There you go.
Boing.
uh, so we'll see
How
how
about
he
you,
bounces
Cody?
back.
That's exactly what Evan said. I just
Yeah,
hope he bounces back, but we will see. We'll certainly
yeah,
see. But it was an amazing flashback. I think Sabo added a lot to both Luffy and Ace's characters and to this world in general.
Definitely,
So it's a great flashback.
yeah.
definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it does give us like a nice insight to both Luffy and Ace, now Sabo as well. Unfortunately, Ace's death was not the first time that Luffy experienced the loss of a brother. Um, but it clearly doesn't make it any better. I think it just makes it hurt more.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully, we'll see things how they play out going forward. But yeah, this was a good volume to kind of give us like a bigger sense of the world as well. Like we only saw like one kingdom, but like Evan mentioned, like the quote from Dragon is like it's kind of like a small scale version of the world at large. So it's like a good example of how this world is set up, and what kind of world we're dealing with here. So this, I think, gives us like a further insight into what kind of world we're experiencing and what is like taking place in this world. So I think it's a little bit eye opening in that way to really see how these people are living and how there's these different types of people that have these certain outlooks on life and people and where their morals lie. So I think beyond like the main things of the flashback, I think that's also a big takeaway from this flashback too. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to get into where this is leading.
I love how Oda uses flashback as a storytelling mechanism. Like it's so cool the way he's able to use to tell the story of the past and draw the parallels with the future, or the present rather,
Mhm.
and the future too, I guess. But um, like we were saying, it was like kind of he was showing a society, like a mini society that's representing a larger society. He's kind of showing Luffy and Ace's connection in this controlled setting that also reflects the current emotions and connection that they have. And it's just like I think Oda does a really good job adding depth to characters using these flashbacks. You know, not only depth to characters, but
Hmm.
depth to the world and depth to the connections of like all these different people. And um, I just think it adds a lot of depth, and it's a very effective way of storytelling.
Yeah, and whenever we get a flashback, it's usually for a good reason.
Yeah.
All right, but this is where we're going to conclude this week's episode of the We Are Reading One Piece podcast. You can find this episode wherever podcasts are found at We Reading One Piece podcast.buzzsprout.com or on the YouTube channel at We Reading One Piece. This is a spoiler-free channel up to you where we record the podcast, so if you're new to the series, you can visit the channel there. You can also find me and this podcast on my YouTube channel at Pirate King Codex for more One Piece content. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can reach us at wearereadingonepiece@gmail.com. We love to hear from listeners, so if you're enjoying the show, or if you have any suggestions on how we can make it better, let us know. Next episode, we'll be finishing Volume 60, My Little Brother. I've been Joel, and I've been joined by Evan.
Thanks for listening.
And Cody.
Comment if you love Sabo.
All right, well, be sure to bring along all the hopes and dreams, and we'll see you on the next episode.